So kids, on this sheet, there's nothing really new here. There's some new ways that things are expressed. I've already done a couple things here I'm going to talk about. So here, you're just going to do f of 2. You're going to do three things. Find f of 2, find b of 2, which I did f of 2 on the left, b of 2 on the right, and then you add them together. And it's very important that you try not to do too much at once. Okay, sometimes people try to shove it all and do it in one step, and it doesn't really work so well. So 0 is the final answer for this one. Here we're going to find f of negative 3. Notice how I put parentheses around that negative 3. That's very important because negative 3 squared like that is 9. And then I'm find b of negative 3 over here. And then, of course, I have to subtract those. So 7 minus 13 is negative 6. Now, down here, you're seeing some different notation. So the first two we've seen before. But down here, this is the same thing as b of negative 3 plus f of negative 3. So it's really just like what we did up top. You do three things. Find b of negative 3, find f of negative 3, and then add them together. B of negative 3, I didn't show any work because we just did that right here. F of negative 3 is the same thing. We did that right here, but now I'm just adding it. Here, f of 0, f of 0, of course, would be what? Gosh. F of 0 will be 0 squared minus 2. And of course, that would be negative 2. Let's find b of 0. Now remember, b of 0 will be 4 minus 3 times 0, which would just be 4. But now we got to subtract these two things. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. All right. Down here, I've already done some of this. So, well, let me erase part of it, and then we'll talk about it again. So remember, this is b of 2 over f of 2. So you're going to divide. So let's find b of 2. That would be 4 minus 3 times 2. So that's 4 minus 6, which gives us negative 2. And then f of 2 I had already done down here was positive 2. So now we take these two things and put the b1 on top. Negative 2 over 2 gives us a final answer of negative 1. Here, that closed in circle like that means multiply. So again, find all three. B of 1 is 4 minus 3 times 1, which would be 4 minus 3, which would be 1. F of 1 would be 1 squared minus 2, which would be negative 1. And of course, 1 times negative 1 would be a final answer of negative 1. On the back side, so we started to do this stuff the other day. We got six different functions here. So there's an f graph function, there's a g graph function, there's an h of x equation function, p of x, and then there's actually two functions here. So here's the input, and here's the output with m of x. But here's the output if you use r of x. So it's actually two functions in one. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is f of 2. Remember, f of 2 is the one on the left, up top. So I'm going to find, there's not really much work to show with some of these. F of 2 is simply right there. Disappearing ink. The y value here is negative 2. G of 2 is over here. That's a y value of 0. I add those together, I get negative 2. Okay. Let me erase that. Now R, so remember, that's over here on the right, on the far right. This is the input. So R of negative 4, that would be this thing here, negative 3. P of negative 4, I have to do a little bit of work here. That's this function, negative 4 minus 4. Now remember, that's negative 8. But the absolute value of negative 8 is positive 8. So now in the end, I'm asked to multiply these things. -3 times 8 gives me a final answer of, whoops, I got to fix that. It should be -24, right? There we go. H of 0, that's using the equation. That's a nice easy one. That's just going to be 2. M of 0, remember, as 0 is the input, so I got to use, that's up here. This is the M column. There's the X column. There's the 0. It goes to -2. We're subtracting these things. So 2 minus -2 gives you 4. You got to be careful. It's easy to mess that subtraction up. Down here, we're going to do M of 3. That's going to go in the top. P of 3, I got to figure that one out, right? P of 3 is absolute value of 3 minus 4. That's going to end up being +1. Now, M of 3, remember, that's the input. There's a 3. The M, it goes to 8. So I have 8 over 1, which is just 8. Okay, G of 4 and R of 4. Well, let me scroll up here. So G of 4, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I go, the Y value is 4. R of 4, here's the input. There it is. R goes to -10. So I have 4 plus a -10, which of course would be -6. P of -1, absolute value of -1 minus 4. Remember, don't turn that into a positive. You got to do -1 minus 4, which is -5, and the absolute value is +5. Now, M of -1, that's just from the table. There's the -1. It goes to -3. And we have to subtract these things. So 5 minus a -3 would be +8. Almost done here. So H of -3 is 3 times -3 plus 2. So that's -9 plus 2. That's -7. F of -3 comes from the graph. Let's go up and take a look at that. 1, 2, 3. Because that's the input, I go up there. The value is 2. F of -3 is 2, and we have to multiply these things. So -7 times 2 is -14. Let's find P of 0 quickly. Absolute value of 0 minus 4. Absolute value of -4 is +4. Now G of 0, this is kind of a little bit weird. G of 0 looks like it's actually a little, 0 means I don't go left or right. I go up. Looks like it's a little bit above. Above 1, maybe I'm just estimating. Maybe G of 0 is about 1.2. So I'm going to have to take out the calculator here, right? That's okay. 4 divided by 1.2, and you get 3 1/3, 3.33 repeating. I just estimated the 1.2 on that, just so you know. Almost done. H of -5, let's plug the -5 in for x in the h function. We end up getting -15 plus 2, which is -13. R of -5, of course, that's from the table. -5, there's the R, it goes to 4. And we're asked to subtract these things. So it's -13 minus 4, which is -17. Okay, there you go.